I'm Jeff Bullock, and I'm a CPA and an MBA, and I wanted to share a little bit about savings, when you should save, where you should save, and why, and how much. So, saving can be really misunderstood, and why you should save is misunderstood. So, I think it's really important for us to break down this um, to break down savings and to really go over it. I think this is really important for your financial health and as well for your mental health and happiness, right? So this is one of the things that I think is really important for for your finances. So let's jump into a little bit of what people might tell you about savings. All right, so the first thing that you'll hear about savings is it's not the best place to put your money. It is in savings, right? You're not going to get the return on the investment that you can on investing, right? You can put your savings, a lot of people will say you can put your savings into the stock market, put as much in there as you can, and that's really where you're going to get the return on your investment. You'll hear, the wealthy people, they have barely anything in savings, or they don't have anything at all in savings. That might be the case, but oftentimes the most wealthy people will fall the furthest if there is some kind of financial crisis that comes up in their life. And so really the savings is going to be that net, right? You don't need to put all of your money in savings, and that's not what I would recommend. But I would recommend that you have a nest egg in savings, and we'll dive into this a little bit more. But the biggest thing is don't put all of your money into investing. Yes, it's good to have some in investing when the time comes, right? When you have the money that you need in your savings, when you have debts paid off, when you're at that point in your life, put some in investments. Okay, but there should always be some that you're putting towards retirement and things like that. Okay, I understand that. But beside your small amount that you're putting towards your retirement, your manageable amount that you're putting towards retirement, you should not be putting everything into the stock market, right? The stock market is going to be going up and down, and yes, it's a way to make a lot of money, but it's not all about just making tons and tons of money. It's also about the timing of things. If talking about the timing of things, right? When should you have a savings, right? And you should really always have a savings. But if you think about it, savings is for the long journey. And with the stock market, there's always going to be these ups and these downs. There's always going to be things that are going to come up, uh, whether it is in a macro level or just in your own personal life, right? There can be things that come up that really you'll need that savings, and that little amount that you can draw from is going to be super beneficial. And yes, with investments you can draw from that, but if there is some kind of downturn, you're not going to want to draw from it. So really the savings can help you be ready for if the economy goes up or if the economy goes down. The other thing is a savings is a great place to store your money if the right time hasn't come for your investments, right? You're putting a little bit away into your investments. Say you have all your debts paid off, you're putting a little bit away into your investments. Savings is great for when you're looking for the right time to invest, right? I've seen it over and over again. You see it with several very wealthy people. They will hold their money until the economy takes a dip. That's when they will now make larger purchases. That doesn't mean that they're not making purchases throughout the time, but that's when they will make the larger purchases. When everybody else is running from the market, they are able to now purchase in the market, and they're purchasing it at a discounted amount and able to take advantage of that. Are they putting all of their savings into the market? I hope not. I don't know, but I would hope not. You should always have some in savings for the rainy day, right? So we're looking at the long picture. We're not looking at just short term. What's going to happen right now? What's the best way to make money as fast as possible? We're looking at the long term, right? So where should you invest your money? I would say first, you think about it with liquidity, and this is a word that's often thrown out there. Um, is liquidity, right? Liquidity is just how easily you can access that money, and you want it so that it, some of your money is very easily accessible, and then you want it less and less and less accessible. The less accessible it is, often the higher return you will get. So but you do need some that you can easily have access to, and that's going to be your most liquid funds, right? So I would say first and foremost, you can have your money in a high interest savings account, right? High interest savings account, put it in there. There are several different banks that have 4%, upper 3%. Look through the different banks that are out there. See if you can find one that has a high interest savings account. And there are several out there, right? That do have that high interest savings account. And you're looking at the 3% plus range for a savings account. This is liquid, easily transferred in, transferred out. It's not a CD. There's no penalties for transferring in and out. It's just really quickly you can get it if you need it, but it still has a fairly high interest rate. It's not necessarily keeping up with the market, but it has a fairly high interest rate. So you're getting something from it. It's not just dead in there. There is benefit to having that just because it's even more liquid if it's in the bank that you use all the time. Now, the other one is what I see with people who have money in savings is oftentimes they're really tempted to pull that money. They say, how much money do I have? I have X amount of dollars. Let me spend it as quickly as I can. Right? This is where you come into the next step of your savings, maybe a little bit less liquid, so that you're not spending your savings. You're not just always spending your savings. I would have, if that is you, if you are always tempted to spend your savings, open up another bank, a savings account in another bank, and have that savings account be one that isn't attached to your bank. Maybe you have to go physically drive there and get the money from that bank. Maybe it's in cash, but maybe it's in a cashier's check, whatever it is. But it's more of a physical driving there, asking for your money, putting it into the bank where you need it. Right, so that it's not so easily accessible, but still you can get a high interest savings account with that all attached, and make it so that it's not quite so easily accessible to you that you're spending it just willy-nilly. And then the next one after that is to have your savings account to have money into investments, right? You can have, after you have enough money in your other savings accounts, to have it into your investments. It would be less liquid. So you want to have the more very liquid, less liquid, and then not very liquid at all. Your investments. And this is also with your investments. These can take a downturn. They can take a dip. Your savings, they're not really going to take a dip if the economy goes bad. So these are, less liquid, but also more risky, right? And that's where you would have the money in those kind of investments is for that, right? So we're going to look at all three of these situations when you're putting money into an investment. Now, why should you have a savings? Just like I talked about before, with your savings, this is one way that you can get ahead, right? There is always going to be downturns in the market, and this is a great time for you to take advantage of those downturns if you have the money in your savings. Now, for your personal life, this is also a great way for you to avoid interest payments on debt. So if you have a larger amount that you can put down, say for large purchases, maybe for a car, for a house, the larger the amount that you have saved up that you can put down on that house, on that car, the less you'll have to pay on that interest. So it really can get you ahead, right? Because most people are going to be paying huge amounts on interest rates, right? Even a mortgage, you're looking at 6% right now, right? Car, you're looking at a high amount. Credit cards, right? If you can save up for your trip or your vacation or whatever it is, and you don't draw so much from your credit card, that will make it so that you're not paying that 20%. Right, now think about it. If you compare not paying interest on and compare it to getting interest from investments, right? One of the best investments that you're going to get is going to have a hard time matching against even a regular mortgage of 6%, right? So most investments that you're going to be seeing, especially at an amateur level, you're not really going to be seeing that 6%. You might see 10% if the economy is going really well and you're really doing a great job, you know where you're putting your money, you know, you might see that 10%. But it's going to be hard because it's going to have the ups and downs and the dips where that 6% is going to be constant. And it's going to be constant for a very long time, for 30 years, right? That you're not going to see, it's going to be very challenging to have an investment that is constantly giving you 6%, right? So just paying down your mortgage is going to get you ahead right there. And now, again, the other one is credit cards. People are spending tons of money on credit cards instead of saving up for what they want and purchasing it later. 20%, you're just not going to find that in any investment. So the best case scenario is just pay those things down because those are going to be draining your money faster than you can be making money in other places. You know, whether or not you think you can judge the stock market, you're not going to be jumping in for 30 years and riding the stock market. It's just unheard of, right? The stock market goes up and down every 10 years, and there's going to always be those missteps. You're going to lose money. The best case is get rid of those fixed payments that you're going to always be having. So why should you save money? It is so that you can spend the money where you need to, when you need to, on those emergencies or those surprises or even those things that you're wanting. And not have to pay the interest and the payments on those things. All right, so why not invest it all, right? And I kind of talked about this again also, but let's just dive in a little bit deeper into why not invest all of it, right? Again, it's the timing and the risk of the stock market, right? People are going to say this is the time to invest, this is the time to buy the house, this is the time to do, you know, whatever it is, and they say go all in, that's the only way. And you kind of get this feeling that if you say, if I don't put all in, I'm just going to be poor for the rest of my life. And I don't want to be poor for the rest of my life, so I'm going to do it, you know, put it all in and just hope for the best. And that's the way that the wealthy make their money, you know. And maybe it is. Maybe that's the way that the wealthy do make their money, is by putting all in and just hoping for the best. But is that what you are wanting to do? And I would say no, you don't want to just gamble with all your money, right? You hope for 1 in 10 chance that you're going to be getting that return. You know, it's better to just go slow and steady when it comes to investing. It's not a good thing just to push it all in. It's good to do it slow and steady. That's what we're looking at, a 30-year time frame, you know, a 30, 40, 50-year time frame. We're not looking at 1 to 2 years. 1 to 2 years, yeah, that's when if you're just 1 to 2 years, yeah, that's where you would put in everything, pull it all out. But this is life, right? We're looking at long term. We're not looking at the quick investments. We're looking to see how do you make money in the long term, right? And that's where, don't put it all into one of these investments. Have some in savings, be ready for the future, and have some in different investments, and have some in, you know, pay off your debt and things like that, where you're looking long term. Do not buy into the thought that you need to go all in order for you to make it big. You know, you're risking bankruptcy and the stresses that come from it. And a lot of people will say, well, it's just bankruptcy. Well, think about this. When it comes to bankruptcy, it is so much stress, so much taken from you in the form of mental, that it's just not worth it. You know, it's better to be safe and not have to worry about it. All right, so with savings, how much do you have in savings? I would say you're going to have, first and foremost, you want to have at least months of your expenses in savings, right? So do the calculations, run the numbers, maybe take some time to really see how much you're spending over 3 months, see which things you can cut out if you lose your job, what can you cut out? So see what you spend for 3 months. Have about that much in your savings. Then once you start paying off your debt, you're in a better position. Your end goal is to have that 6 months. That's really, really the target, is to have the 6 months in the savings in case something crazy happens. Then you have enough in savings. Now, these aren't hard set, this is exactly how much you want. It's just, it gives you a really good piggy bank to fall back on if worst case scenario happens and you are needing to spend a good portion of your savings. That's just going to always happen. And so these are just great amounts that you can put away, and it's going to be for any size of income, just dependent on your own situation. And be serious about it, right? Are you really going to cut out, this or that expense? You need to be serious about it, right? And you can also just say, this is how much I spend. I'm gonna have, if a worst case scenario happens, I lose my job or something, I still want to spend that much, right? So have that much in savings. All right, and that is really going to be the key with savings. There really is an important concept. You don't listen to people who say don't have anything in savings. That's just ridiculous, right? It's important to have as much in savings. It really is great for your finances. And again, this is Jeff Bullock. I hope you enjoy this. If you did, I'm going to be putting one of these videos on every week. I'll have different types of videos on there as well. So go through, see the other videos that I have, like and subscribe, and watch for more. Thank you. Bye.